Thank you for watching another edition of the Chocolate Rocket Crit Series. As you guys know, I started this some time ago. And what you are watching here is the last stage of Intelligentsia Cup presented by SRAM. And we are out on the south side of Chicago. Now, this is the only industrial park race of the series. Just to bring you up to speed, 2 days before this event, so on Friday, I crashed. And it didn't look like a bad crash, but I lost a lot of skin, also jacked up part of my hand. And on this particular day, I went back to the bike that I crashed on only because it was more upright, and I just felt really, really bad the day before Saturday at Glen Ellen, which is a very fun course. I was looking forward to helping the team. I thought we could deliver Sharon for a win. And it was the first time in a long time that I had dropped out of a race. So wasn't happy about that. So I said, you know what, even though I could barely pedal, I'm going to give it a go. So I unpacked my giant Propel, which takes a lot of packing because it's disc brake. And I put it back together, and I borrowed a wheel from SRAM, and they use a zip wheel. So SRAM Neutral Support hooked me up with a disc brake wheel, and I was able to participate. Actually, right there in front of me is Danny Cam. So he had an unfortunate crash which caused the chain effect, and I was involved in the same crash he was in. We're both all right, just it's never fun crashing. I joke, but I say this is the reason why I do Masters racing, is because it's fun, it's fast, it's not as hard as a pro race, and it's safe. So anyway, let's get to bike racing. So as you can see, these guys, they don't mess around, man. We pretty much hit the guns, hit the gates rolling. I think there's maybe 2 or 3 guys behind me. The reason I don't have a rear camera here, my bike fell over and the bracket, the frame for my GoPro broke. And I didn't have enough time to try to figure it out before the race. So I don't have a rear camera, unfortunately. And I'll tell you the reason why I don't have the overlay is because my computer died for some reason. So you see people are looking at me kind of funny. I felt like complete crap, man. My hip is super stiff, my hand hurts, I could barely turn the pedals, and someone was on the front absolutely drilling it, and I thought I was going to drop out right here. But then my mind took over. The fight in me took over, and it was like, all right, man, look, you all the way out here in Chicago. No, don't quit. Ride as hard as you can, as long as you can, until you get dropped. So that's why I worked a little harder, and I got back into the group. So I'm kind of skipping through this video here. Right now, the Weather Channel guy is having a difficult time sitting on the back of the field, and that's exactly where I want to sit. And as you can see, he's doing a full-on effort. It's a full-on headwind right here too, and so that effort hurt him. And in my head, I'm thinking, all right, I got to get around this guy, and he's trying to wave me by. And what I'm telling him right now, I said, go ahead, man, just you ride as long as you can, because I don't think I'm going to make it. I'm dealing with an injury. So look at the gaps, they're starting to form. This guy is about 3 seconds off the pace, and now we have this backside, which is a full-on tailwind. So I'm going to just go ahead and bite my teeth a little bit and get around this guy. I'm eating cake right now. Birthday cake from my mom. Tastes good. So I get into a zone, basically a nice endurance pace, and I don't go into the red zone. And when I catch them, what I do, I just use the momentum that I created in this tailwind section to get back to the group. And then I'm going to slowly just start picking my way, because in my head I'm thinking, like I said earlier, I'm out here, give it a try. So if the inside's open, I always try to use the inside. It's just a faster route. As you can see right there, 2 inside corners. I made up 5 spots. May not seem like a big deal, but as this video go on, you will see that me riding up the inside and moving up closer to the front was absolutely pivotal. So this is a very funny part, believe it or not. I'm moving up a little bit, and then I see Sharon dropping back, and I'll try to see if you can hear this. So he asked me how I was feeling, and I didn't say anything, but I shook my helmet. I shook my head no, and because they all knew that I was in bad shape. So this is literally on the front side on the same lap. I'm still moving. The field is going a little slower now. You can see we're going slow because we're like 5 wide, 6 wide, and these streets are wide open. So this is turn 1, and then it's a short straight, and then we hit turn 2. So 566 to my left, 568 right there to my left. They have the biggest team. The rider just to my right is Intelligentsia. They have the second biggest team. So right here, I'm starting to feel a little better. That's Ben Sharp right there in the blue, I believe. So I just kind of weave through here, and to my left, I see Carlos attacking. So Frank right here had the same idea as me. Do not let Carlos go up the road. I wasn't racing for me. I was literally racing for Sharon because I believe he was the fastest guy there when it comes to a field sprint. So Frank sees me, and he's like, all right, game on. He just puts his head down, which was a blessing for me because if the roles were reversed, I wouldn't have pulled that long. I would have shared the workload. So I just sped it up right here. And you can see he's getting close. He's starting to slow down. So I give him a little push just to get him back into the ride. And I'm just going to speed this thing up, like I said, for time's sake. So now we have 6 riders. Pete's Coffee right there to my right. Intelligentsia. I'm not sure what team Frank is actually riding for in the pink in front of me, but he's definitely motivated. We talked a few days before this race, and he was saying he was going to hop in the Masters racing because he's doing the 2-3 or possibly a 3-4. I'm not sure what the combination was, and it just wasn't enough for him. So you can see because of the tailwind, it's very easy. Not easy, but I have some assistance to ride a little harder right here. So I take a nice long pull to try to give the guys that could be a little bit out of breath a little time to recover. So that's why I took a longer pull because I do want this group to survive. If this group survives, it's good for everyone. So everyone's represented. All the big teams are represented. 2 people that are missing, actually 3 people that are missing that are key is the Australian who's winning the series, Emil Abraham, who I think was in like 2nd or 3rd, and Ben Sharp, one of the fast guys, and also Trelecki, another fast guy. So putting those guys out of this equation was absolutely fantastic. I look at the competition that I'm up against in this group. There's not one sprinter in the group. Frank has some speed on him, but everyone else, as far as I know, is just like a diesel. I'm not familiar with the guy right in front of me. And so I'm motivating these guys. For the most part, Carlos from Intelligentsia is by far the strongest guy in the group. He's pulling very hard right here through the start-finish line. I mean, just kind of gapping everyone out. And he is the instigator. So what I do right there, you see, I didn't wait. I just used my momentum. The second place guy was starting to slow up, so I just used the momentum that I had to take my pull.
Come on, guys. We can't let up right now. It's too early.
So what I'm telling these guys is, look, we only been out here 4 or 5 laps. We got to keep going hard. It'll settle down, and the group will give up behind us. So it's important once you get out there, those first, sometimes it's 5 laps, sometimes it's 10 laps, sometimes it's more. You just never know. But you got to stay organized, and you got to just like ride as hard as you can without blowing up to establish that gap. Because once the field behind sees that gap and you start getting that out of sight, out of mind scenario, it plays into our advantage. One of the disadvantages of this course was that Intelligentsia building just to the left there, that was the start-finish line last year. As you can see, they pushed it back about another 300 meters. So you have to be going really, really fast to be out of sight, out of mind. I think you need about maybe about 45 seconds to be out of sight, out of mind on that front side because it is such a straight shot and it's so long. So again, just speeding it up here because it was nothing that exciting going on in the break besides us trying to work together. And I'll start talking again when it started to fall apart. So as you can see again, Carlos is absolutely smashing the pedals, giving everyone the business right here. The reason my head was turning to the right, I was actually talking to the Burnham, I think that's the name of the team. They're out of Chicago. I actually stayed with Nate Iden, who he hosted us, his wife and himself. Great accommodations. He races for that team. So Yellow Helmet was literally starting to mess up the rotation, and because it's 6 of us and everyone's working pretty well together, and I'm pretty confident that we can survive this break. I tell him to just sit on. He's like, I'm trying to sit on. I'm like, you're not. You're riding second wheel, sitting on me, and you're on the back. So here's where I played him pretty good. I made him sit on the front right here. He's not on the wheel. Carlos has now taken a huge chop. So the Burnham guy had to pull the whole backside for the most part. Now he's pulling the front side, which is a full-on headwind, and he's doing a great job. So in my head, I'm thinking, if you can spend the energy to pull, for 45 seconds to a minute, and then he sprints out of the saddle to get to these guys, you should be able to just rotate. So here was Pete's Coffee downfall. He saw me, and he should have allowed me to just pull through. Instead, after his chop, he got back in. Carlos is attacking. I come out of the second corner, and I take off. I reach my biggest watt output. It was about 1,300 to go across to Carlos. I was yelling at Frank to get on because, to be honest with you, I didn't really feel that comfortable being out there with Carlos by myself. I just wasn't feeling too well. And I wasn't confident. So I was yelling at Frank to get on my wheel. I think I was going a little bit too fast for him to accelerate again, so he was left behind. So here's where everything gets a little juicy. Carlos and I worked very well together. I told him straight up that you're riding very strong. You take the front straight, which is headwind, and I'll take the back straight. So for the most part, we did a good job sharing the workload. Our gap stayed at about 20-25 seconds for a very long time. And then we had one solo rider, which I thought was Trelecki, coming across. And it's so funny. I told Carlos, I said, another sprinter's coming across. If he comes now, you get third. In fact, it was Ben Sharp. So I'm not sure which one I would have preferred, Ben Sharp or Trelecki. Sharp is very similar to Carlos, except I would say he has more speed in his legs, but still a very strong endurance rider. So here we are, still sharing our workload pretty evenly. I heard the announcer when I was going through the start-finish saying that Bahati can't hold the wheel, or Carlos is taking me off the wheel. In fact, he was taking me off the wheel, but it was by choice that I didn't want to fight harder to stay on the wheel. So I backed off just a little bit. It was in my comfort zone, and it didn't affect him leaving me. I wasn't going to get dropped. Carlos is a very cool guy to ride in a break. Very motivating, very honest, hard worker. And look at it, he's a bigger guy, so he creates a really good draft. So I would absolutely ride in a break with him any day. At this point in the break, we actually backed off just a little bit because we have a good enough gap that we don't have to kill each other anymore. So when we got out there, we spent about, I would say, upwards of 15 laps together, and this was a pretty big course. And so here's the situation I was talking about, where Carlos is riding hard, He's telling me to get on his wheel because I think he knows that he needs me just as much as I need him. But I wanted to stay in my comfort zone. I didn't want to go red line with Carlos, so I just backed off a little bit. So at this point, Ben Sharp is getting very close, and I think we both starting to notice that this blue jersey is starting to get close. You see Carlos flicking me through here. I still have a headwind of a pull, and funny enough, every time Carlos pulled hard through the start finish, and he flicked me to come through before turn 1, if he was going fast, it allowed me to keep that momentum and keep our speeds higher. So it was just a good combination, and I think that's why we were great working together. And at the end of the day, the worst that can happen is that I get second or we get caught. And if we get caught, I was confident that Sharon would win. Because also back in the field with Sharon was Eric Smith and Steven Salazar. It seemed like Steven is like a stage race rider. He getting stronger and stronger as the each stage went on. So we 4 guys. I think it was a good solid team that we brought out. By the way, Steven Salazar raced the entire Intelligentsia Cup. He started off by himself for the first 4 days until I joined, and then the rest of them. So you can see there, I took a little peek to see how close Sharp was getting. We were still holding him at about 20 seconds and then holding the field at about 40 seconds. So we're pretty good. So we're getting down to the end here. I've been chopping this thing up for you guys. Carlos accelerates pretty hard right here. He sees an opportunity. I think he knows that if it comes down to a field sprint, he's not going to win. This is bell lap. I skipped all the way to the bell lap because nothing exciting happened. I mean, we were just chopping it up. And again, I'm totally in my comfort zone right here. I'm not going red. Carlos realized that he's not going to get away from me. So he sits up, and you hear what I said. I said, if the other guy catches, now you're going to get third, because the whole time I thought it was the sprinter, Trelecki. So playing a little mind games with Carlos just to make sure that he stays on the pedals. I keep looking back to make sure Ben Sharp, or the next rider, is not getting too close. He flicks me through. I look back again to the judge if I need to pull. I was comfortable enough with the gap that we had on the rider that was chasing, so this is why I didn't pull. We're both right now just riding in the wind. No one's really getting any benefit from each other because we're both a little concerned with the rider approaching, and also concerned if we're going to make it to the finish without getting caught. So we're getting ready to approach the second to last turn. Once we make this turn here, there's a slight cross headwind, and then we'll be on the start-finish stretch, which is freaking long. I'll tell you, one thing that was playing in my mind right here was the win by John Degenkolb during the Tour de France when he won on the Roubaix stage, and how he let it out and took control. So here I am. I baited Carlos into sprinting early by getting out of the saddle and shifting gears. Once I felt he was up to speed, I just waited, and it was pretty much a formality after that. Once you get this close as a sprinter, you're not going to let it pass you by. So it was great for us to get another win. It was definitely, I was happy that I was able to get a jersey and not go home empty-handed. So 2 wins, 4 podiums, and we're looking forward to coming back. Intelligentsia, these guys put on a great event, and I want to make sure I bring some of my friends from next year, and hopefully bring my entire team, Methods to Winning. Right here, Carlos is saying, it was a pleasure working with me. That made me feel good. I told him just now that I set a high new FTP. and we're just congratulating each other. Ultimate sportsmanship right there. I'm telling you, cool guy. I'm glad to have met him and had a race. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to YouTube, and talk to you guys later.